Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Ramily Insider podcast. I'm Jeremy Pearl. Alongside me today, Mr. Ryan McKenna. How are you doing today?
Just fantastic. And you know what? I just wanted to point out, last episode, it looked as though you were taller than me. That is not the case. I'm 5'10". You are like 5'8" or something. And last episode, it looked as though I was shorter than you because I slouched. Up nice and tight right now. We're good to go.
Okay, well, on that note, let's talk about some Rams sports.
Let's do it.
Men's soccer, number 2 in the nation. Arguably should be number 1, but we'll take number 2, the highest ranking, again in men's soccer history.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's crazy, you know. You think about it, and I don't know if soccer gets as much attention as some of the other sports, like hockey and basketball around here, but they're certainly making a great case for it. Undefeated.
Only undefeated team in the country.
Only undefeated team in the country. That's pretty awesome, Jeremy.
It is. And more good news, our men's volleyball team winning the National Bank Invitational here at the Mattamy Athletics Center, starting the season off with a bang, beating York in the finals, 3-1. Awesome game.
It was awesome game for sure, and you got to take in some of the volleyball.
I was the PA all weekend.
Yeah, you were the PA all weekend. I wasn't able to catch any of the action. Although this team and the men's volleyball team, they always start off really strong in the preseason. And I don't know what happens. You know, they get a couple wins off the bat in the regular season. And then, you know, they start to tire down. And then near the end of the season, they're like, oh, yeah, we're almost in playoffs. So they pick things back up again. And I just hope that they got some good recruits coming in, as you'll find out in the Ramily Insider magazine that's coming out here very soon.
Very young squad.
Yeah, very young squad, but some also really good, talented players that have played both nationally and provincially. So I think they're going to be okay this year.
Men's basketball also starting their season off strong, going to the Queens Invitational and sweeping all 3 games, beating Bishops, Manitoba, as well as Queens, all by kind of an average of 15 to 20 points. Very big weekend for them.
Very big weekend for them, and it also got a chance for their new player, Kadeem Green. He's in the lineup, Jeremy. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Kadeem Green, a former top 50 ESPN recruit, someone that will just allow this team to do so much more. He allows Bjorn Michelson to switch from the 5 to the 4 and kind of play his more natural position. It allows them to have a different defensive aspect where Kadeem Green can just clog the lane and just alter so many different people's shots. Now, you go from a bit of positive news to some negative news. The Rams have lost Ostap Choli, guard, for the season with an ACL injury, and that
hurts.
He's a pure shooter and someone you can't really replace. That being said, they have a lot of nice recruits. JV Mumbwakwa, he can really shoot the ball, and someone to look forward to this year.
But I think also, and you mentioned the addition of Green, it's going to allow someone like Juwan Grainham more space, more time. Whether he starts the game or he comes off the bench, he's still going to be a dominant player. The male rookie of the year last season, he's going to be very electric this season, I think.
Men's basketball looking strong going into the season. Now, our women's hockey team didn't quite get off to the season start they wanted to.
Same with women's soccer.
Disappointing weekend for both women's soccer and women's hockey. Women's hockey to start the season losing to U of T and then York, but that U of T game, first period, 4 goals. I don't know if it was nerves, too much excitement, just not how they wanted to start the season.
Well, the thing with that game is there was 4,000 people in attendance. It was crazy. I know our very own, our producer here at the Ramily Insider podcast, Andrea Elliott, was in attendance, and I guess the atmosphere was just electric. You know, you start that off, you're probably going to have a little bit of nerves in a building that loud, and as interim head coach Pierre Alain said after the game, these girls will probably never play in front of 4,000 people again in their lives. So, you know, you probably got a bit of nerves. 4 quick goals, that hurts. It hurts. But in the second and third period, Alex Armstrong, she stood on her head from what I hear. And I don't know, on Saturday, that was a tough one. You know, they came out
against York.
Yeah, against York. They had the lead, and then they blew it. But, you know,
it happens. It's hockey.
It's hockey, and it's still very young in the season. They have a great chance this weekend against Brock to get back on the winning curve. Brock is a team at least similar to them, I guess, a team that they should be able to beat. And Guelph as well. Guelph's strong, but it's going to be a good test for them.
Now, women's soccer dropping 2 games to Nipissing and Laurentian. Had an opportunity there to really establish some playoff chances. they're still sitting in sixth, the last playoff spot, but disappointing weekend when they could have really put themselves in a good spot.
Coulda, shoulda, didn't. You know, it's just one of those things. But it's also one of those things where you have to regroup, I guess, and reevaluate things, as we'll talk to Erica Huculak about. It's just one of those things where you pick back up and look forward to the next pair of games, because every single game now, it matters.
Now, men's hockey, 2 exhibition games against Nipissing, winning both, and that's really the first time they've beat Nipissing in a long time.
Yeah, we had the Ramily, the Ryerson Rams Network broadcast on Friday evening whenever they were here at the MAC, and they looked really good, actually. They had like over almost 25 shots in the first period of play. The Nipissing goaltender, he stood on his head, but it's great to see they had third line producing, which is, if they're going to be successful, you got to get at least 3 lines scoring. And I think you can say that with any hockey team. And I can honestly, confidently say this year that I think they will have 3 scoring lines.
Well, more on them later. Joining us on the podcast today, men's hockey captain Andrew Buck, as well as women's soccer captain Erica Huculak. Coming up next. We're here with men's hockey captain Andrew Buck. How you doing today, Buck?
Doing well. How about you?
Pretty good. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, no worries.
Now, you guys kind of got off to a up and down start last season. How do you prepare for this season to get off to a better start?
I think it's just from start of training camp, day one, we had to be more prepared and every day working hard and getting ready for the start of the year. I think last year coming in with the new rink, everyone was kind of focusing on that and everything that came with that. So this year we've just been focusing on hockey and doing what we need to do to be ready for Friday. And it's gone well. We had a good exhibition schedule and hopefully we can carry over into Friday night.
Now, Andrew, on Friday night, you guys are in a new division this year, moving over to the West. Do you find that's going to make a big difference?
I don't think so. I think the schedule is a little different this year in where we play everyone in the old division and we get to play everyone in our new division twice. So everyone is good. There's no bad teams across the whole league. So we're going to have to compete every night and be ready for a game every night. And I think we are. I think we're ready for that.
What are your expectations going into the 2013-14 season?
You know what? I don't want to put too many goals for the end of the year. I think we need to focus on right now in each game. I think last year we were kind of thinking too far ahead and got too far ahead of ourselves. Like we want to be a playoff team, want to be a team that goes far. But I think right now we just need to focus on game by game and worry about the first game Friday. And if we do that, I think in the long run we got a good enough team to compete and do some good things.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I remember speaking with Brian Burkhoff last season, and he said some of your guys' preseason goals were, A, to make the playoffs, to have home ice advantage in the playoffs, and to go undefeated at home all last season. Do you feel as though maybe there was too much expectation?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it. We had a good year the year before with a lot of the. My third year, we had a lot of first-year guys, and I think we did better than what we thought. And coming in last year, having that as the year before, and as well as the new rink, and kind of the expectations that came with the new rink, and all that stuff. So I think all that kind of together, we expected to do better, and we kind of got ahead of ourselves and forgot what it took us to win, and that's hard work. We're a hard-working team and kind of a blue-collar team. So we forgot that that's what we need to do to win, and once we got back to that last year, we showed we can compete. So I think if we come in with that attitude this year, then we'll be fine and we'll do some good things.
Now, Andrew, this is your last season, and you're in your 5th year. Last year, you missed the better part of the end of the season due to a shoulder injury. How are you in that regard?
I've been fine. I haven't had any issues yet. I mean, knock on wood, it's been good. I trained pretty hard this summer and tried to get the strength back in my shoulder. So it's been good, and I'm looking forward to get going.
Going into your last season as a Ram, as the captain, do you kind of have any personal goals, or is this season going to be kind of maybe extra special?
Yeah, I think you kind of cherish it a little bit more when you get to this point. You start to realize that the end is a lot closer than it has been in the past, and yeah, it's just trying to have some fun with it and do some good things. I think since I've gotten here, the program has become competitive and where it wasn't before. We compete every night, and I think for me, before I move on, I'd like to kind of get this program to the next level, kind of take it just past being competitive and competitive every game to the next point of going on and doing some good things. So that would be kind of my goal coming into the year. But I mean, yeah, just kind of cherish this last year and have some fun with it.
Awesome. Well, good luck this season, and
Yeah,
hope you enjoy it, and hope you guys do well.
Awesome.
Men's hockey captain Andrew Buck.
We're here with a women's soccer player and midfielder, Erica Huculak. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Erica, you guys had a bit of a rough weekend this past weekend, dropping both your contests. But you have 5 games left, and it's very important 5 games. What do you guys need to do in the push to the playoffs?
Well, we have to win the games we have to win. And I know that sounds like so obvious, but we have 2 very important games coming up against RMC and Trent. That has to be must-wins for us. And then the other games that we have left are playing teams above us, and all we think about going into those games is, can we steal points off them? And I believe we can, but we just have to focus on the must-win games. And so if I think we do that, I think we're perfectly fine.
Now, you guys have a very young squad this year. What type of progression have you seen within this team?
Well, it's a night and day difference from last year. And I think that has to do with a lot of things. Definitely like the personnel we have on the team now. Even though they are younger and there's a lot of them, they are very mature and buy into what we're trying to do. So it has been awesome. It's like there's been no, when first years come in, there might be a little bit of a gap
Right.
between understanding the whole process, but they've been awesome and listening to everything that Kevin has planned out for us. And so I think bridging that gap has been really essential. And I don't know, just the progression has been, we've felt the way we felt last year, and we never want to feel like that again. So, and it's a collective feeling, so we're just all like working together to get better, and I think it's been happening so far.
What type of potential do you see in this young group going forward?
Oh my gosh, insane amount. I wish I was young with them starting now, but no, they have enormous potential. Not only is there so many of them, but like I said, they're all in a strong mindset, and they're all very talented players as well. So I think in next season, the season after, this team's going to do things that we never thought we could do. So no, they're going to have a great future here for sure.
Erica, it's actually really interesting. And earlier on the show, we had Andrew Buck, who is in his last season as well, and you're in your last year. Looking over the 5 years that you've been here, it's been a really almost 2 complete opposites, and you've been here, there. It's been almost a roller coaster ride. Would you agree?
Yeah, the seasons have been quite up and down. We went from a great season, breaking some win records, goals for. Then we had a more disappointing season. But it's all part of it. I wouldn't take any of it back at all. And it's just, not to sound too corny or whatever, but it does build your character as an athlete and a non-athlete, I guess. So
As a person, yeah.
And a person.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it has been a little up and down, but it's been awesome overall. So.
What have you thought of your play this season?
Good, I guess. I'm pretty, after games, I'm pretty hard on myself, so I always feel like I can do more, do better. So I can't say I'm ever really satisfied, but no, it's, I love playing with the people around me, and they make me better. So no, it has a lot to do with the people, my teammates. So I wouldn't be able to do half the things properly if it wasn't for them around me. So.
Erica, really appreciate you coming on the show, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Now time for Rams in Action. But first, let's thank Andrew Buck and Erica Huculak for coming on the show.
They were great.
They were. They both gave us a lot of information and something we can kind of take away, both at very different points in the season, obviously, with women's soccer with 5 games left in the season, but we'll talk about that a little bit after. But Andrew Buck, captain of the men's hockey team for his 3rd year, said a lot of interesting things. He really thinks this is kind of the most talented team that they've had, and something that this team can do a lot of damage.
Well, I thought, taking it at that interview, I thought the coolest point and the most down-to-earth point, I guess you could say, is how he mentioned the season expectations. Last year they had a ton of them. This year he said they're not setting a whole lot, which is good. I think it's good, and I think it's going to set them up for. I don't know if it's going to help them in the standings and whatnot, but I think at least in the start of the season, we saw in November their only win came like at the very last day of November. So in that regard,
Last season they struggled in the
yes.
first half, and,
Yes,
that,
they did.
and that really put a damper on the season.
Mhm.
And he mentioned, there was a lot of pressure playing here at Mattamy Athletic Center, former Maple Leaf Gardens, and as hockey players, that probably meant the most to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And playing in former Maple Leaf Gardens, absolutely, you're going to have that pressure. But this season, moving over to a new conference, they start the season off with a couple of OUA East, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But Kelly Nove squad and McGill, they're going to be very good, and they always have been. Ottawa's also going to be very good. So if they can at least get a win out of this weekend, I think it's positive for them. Where I see them finishing up at the end of this season, that's tough to say. I see the OUA West is shaped a lot like the OUA East, but at the same time, it's much more open. So what I mean by that is they have their powerhouses, but at the same time in the OUA West, there's any team in that division can beat out any other team. So the Rams are going to have to battle hard all season long. I see them in a 7th to 8th place dogfight fight for the final playoff spot.
Now, they have a lot of rookies, a lot of guys coming from the OHL and CHL and whatnot. Who are you looking forward to watching out of the rookies?
I'm looking forward to watching Dominic Alberga playing on the second line on Friday evening with Michael Fine as well as Jamie Wise. I think anytime you're playing with a guy like Jamie Wise as well as Michael Fine, you're going to be set up for opportunities. And I think if you can put the puck in the net, that you're going to succeed. Another guy that I'm looking for is on the back end as well is Peter Herman-Gildo. He's coming over from the OHL as well. Both these guys, they're going to have to adjust to the OUA and the CIS because it is a completely different game than junior hockey, and that will take a little bit of early on realization for them, as we saw last year with Michael Fine that it did. But there's that period of transition, and the sooner that they realize that, maybe it's just going to take this weekend, maybe it's going to take 2 weekends, but the sooner that they realize that, the better this team is going to be.
Now, switching to women's soccer, this weekend they have 2 games hosting RMC and Queens. And now, Erica, she mentioned that in the fight for the last playoff spot, they need to win the games they need to win. The games they're supposed to win. And again, as she said, it was a little cliche, but it's very true. When you're battling for a playoff spot, you need to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And RMC is one of those teams.
Oh, they are definitely one of those teams. RMC is one of those teams where you need to compete and beat them almost every time that you are playing against them, at least if you're a school like Ryerson where we are growing athletics-wise. And yes, it is a must-win this weekend, and I think they can do it. And she also mentioned how they need to get points against those.
Steal some points. And they
exactly.
did that against Queens last time, but Queens might be coming in with a little bit of a different mindset.
A little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and that's understandable. That's going to happen in any sport. So I see them, I still see them getting into the playoffs. I honestly do, but they are going to need to really bear down and battle harder.
Now, women's hockey, they head out on the road playing Brock and Guelph. What do you look from them this weekend trying to rebound after last weekend's not as expected?
I would look at it as a restart. I would say, hey, you know what, last weekend happened, we're 0-2, but let's restart things. This is a new weekend. We're on the road. Let's see how we can do on the road. We had 2 home games last weekend. We've been pretty good on the road in the preseason. Let's bond as a team. Let's get those road wins. And, hey, if you get 2 wins right off the bat, you're back to even, you're back to 500.
What do you think they really need to work on or improve? What needs to happen for them to be successful this weekend?
I think they need to have good third periods. I honestly feel as though they start out the games quite well, and then in the third period they die off a little bit. But if they can have a consistent 60 minutes, that's been the thing for all 3 years that they've been in existence. Well, this being their third, but consistent 60 minutes has seemed to be the problem in the past. But if they can get that and get off to a decent start and have good goaltending, they'll be okay.
Now, you talked about this a little bit earlier, just kind of touch on it. McGill and Ottawa, men's hockey opens up the season this weekend.
Yes, they do, and going to be a tough couple tests. McGill's always strong. Ottawa's always strong. Personally, I think the Rams are a little bit lucky that they're out of that division because those two teams are so strong. Same with UQTR, same with Carleton. So there's 4 teams right there, and I think they're a little bit lucky to get out of that division. But I think if you can at least steal 2 out of 4 points this weekend, you'll be okay.
Now, women's volleyball, they have a tournament at McMaster this weekend, really starting off their season. What are you looking forward to from them this weekend?
They need to just keep on building off their rookies and keep on building off that chemistry and whatnot. And the more you do it, the more they'll be in. That's same with men's volleyball, who are playing your Ohas this weekend, just an exhibition matchup. But continue to build that, and their season's starting up real soon.
Now, women's basketball, they get their season going, playing Guelph and Fraser Valley in some exhibition matchups. What are you expecting from them? Pretty young squad.
It's going to be really different with no Fuente this season. It's going to be really interesting to see where their offense is coming from. It felt as though we had it all figured out by the end of last season, but that's not the case. So I think these first 2 exhibition games are really going to show us, the guys in the booth, what this team is made out of and where they're going to get their offense.
Well, that will do it for episode 4 of the Ramily Insider podcast. We will not be here next week because of Reading Week. So everyone, enjoy their Thanksgiving and enjoy Reading Week. We will see you back in 2 weeks.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
For Jeremy Pearl, Ryan McKenna, have a good one.